Hey YouTube, I haven't posted on this channel in a while, but I wanted to talk about a little bit of drama that's going on in the Rocket League scene with commentators. It all started with this Twitter post that happened not long ago saying that the caster scene is falling apart right now. Orgs have been allegedly using Liquipedia Points as a means of paying casters. Casters have been offering work for free to undercut other casters in the middle of no negotiations and tens of thousands in prize pool tournaments, demanding free or below minimum wage work. Now, he goes on to talk about how this is not great for the tier 2 talent and it's not great for casters in general, how they need to, have a little bit of ethics when it comes to hiring and dealing with each other in the space. Otherwise, we're going to run into big troubles. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about two different portions of that. One is about casters undercutting each other and having trouble getting roles. And then the other is getting paid in Liquipedia Points. Now, something that I knew coming into Rocket League commentating was that I was never going to be making a ton of money, or at least that was the mindset I had. And I think you have to have that mindset. I think at the end of the day, Rocket League is a pretty small space to really make content in or even be a commentator. And you have to understand that you're basically doing it for the love of the game. I think everybody who started probably did it out for the love of the game, never really felt like they were going to be able to make a job out of it, and kind of fell into it. And I think that the way that Rocket League is, with how big it is, it kind of has to be how it's going to work, which means there might be people undercutting each other at certain levels accidentally. I think there was one of the comments that I didn't really get to see. I couldn't find again after I saw it the first time, saying, I'm not intentionally undercutting other commentators, but I'm maybe coming in at a lower price point than they are. And all I can know is how much I'm willing to do the work for. And I'm not specifically trying to target people. Now, I wonder if Seb has something that happened to him specifically, or someone that he knows, because it seems like he's calling out a specific situation in which maybe an established commentator who normally gets paid more is coming in intentionally just to snag away a job from somebody. That seems like a personal matter if that's happening. I think on a large scale, probably the reality is that commentators are just offering up how much they'd be willing to do it for and getting either hired or not hired. And I think that's how it's gone for a long time. Now, for me, I might be that guy who's undercutting. I don't think I am, but there's a chance I could be, because when I originally started commentating, I was willing to do work basically for free. In fact, the first thing that I really got paid to do, if you guys remember, Turf Wars. It was a LAN that happened over in James Bot's space, his little studio that he has with Rizzo. And it was a 1v1 LAN. And I wanted to be part of the 1v1 LAN. I was going to do it whether or not I got paid or not. In fact, when James first talked to me, I was like, great. How much are flights? I'm going to fly myself out there. I'm going to just be on this stream because I don't want to miss it, because I just love 1v1 and the idea of a LAN happening somewhere that I could be involved in. I just want to be there. Now, I was lucky enough to have another job. I worked a software job that did just fine for me. But I think all these other commentators must also have other jobs. I think there's very few who have been able to get away with just doing commentating, and those are like only the RLCS level people. But anyways, because I had another job and I was doing this for the love of the game, I was ready to go for free. Now, I think I might be outing them a little bit, but they felt really guilty about offering me $500. That's what they ended up saying they were going to give me. And they're like, but we have all these opportunities where you can get different content. I'm like, James, you're saying you're going to pay for me to fly all the way out there and then pay for my stay and then also pay me $500? You don't have to say anymore. You don't have to feel bad about that. That's the most I've ever gotten paid. I'm sitting here thinking this is a humongous deal for me. Now, it turns out later, one of the advice that James gave to me going forward for my career, he's like, hey man, you're worth more than that. You could get paid more than that, which I honestly didn't know. But coming from my perspective, it feels like there's going to be lots of people who are going to be willing to work for free like I was. It's going to be tough to deal with them. And the reality is right now, I don't think Rocket League has enough jobs, from my POV, to really be able to, establish careers for people in the commentating space, with an exception. An obvious exception being people who are at the RLCS level. I think that Epic should definitely be paying people to essentially advertise their game at the maximum amount. I think that's why we've seen so many different Rocket League commentators live off just that. But even then, they're starting to cut down on that, and we're seeing people, lose their jobs that really shouldn't have. So that's not the safest thing in the world either. So I don't know what happened specifically with Seb and the undercutting. It seems like maybe it was a specific situation. I know I was potentially undercutting people before I found out that I could maybe make a little bit more. And even then, I think I'm still losing jobs here and there to people who are willing to do them cheaper than I am. I, of course, have a luxury. I have two different luxuries. The luxury I had before was the luxury of working a software job. The luxury I have now is the luxury of having a stream and just being able to stream matches in the off chance that I don't get hired for a certain gig. So maybe I'm just sitting pretty and I'm not really the guy to talk to about this. Seb is actually one of the guys I would say to reach out to talk about it. I think he's somebody who does more commentating. There's a few other guys I asked as well. But there's also another part of this tweet, and that was him talking about Liquipedia Points as a mean of paying casters. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what Liquipedia Points are, what apparently orgs were offering people, and what all this means, because I'm not sure everybody understands. Now, Liquipedia is a place that keeps track of all the events. In fact, I'll just pull up RLCS here. This is essentially Rocket League's website. They never really made a website. They keep telling us they're going to make a website, but they never do. And that's because Liquipedia exists. I think they never will make a website because this is such a good resource and people are running it for free. Talking about people undercutting. There's a lot of people who do a hard work on this site who aren't getting paid anything. For example, Lucas, the guy who just recently retired from doing free work and is now actually going to get paid money. But he did this for a long time to establish a level of credibility before eventually getting paid for it. And I just think that might be the reality of working in such a small esports space. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to get killed for having that take. But either way, Liquipedia is a free run Wikipedia in which you can look up both events, but also not events, players. Like if I wanted to look up First Killer, I'm going to be able to see First Killer and all the details on his results, his controls, everything about him. So it's a nice and interesting place to check things out. And players for the longest time have wanted to become somebody who has a page because it shows, look, I must be some important Rocket League player. I want to be notable and get a page. Now, what would happen if this were pure anarchy and there were no actual rules is the nice volunteers at Liquipedia who work would be getting constantly barraged by players who said, I want a tournament for $5. Can I get a Liquipedia page? I want that information to get shown. And basically, there needs to be some level of standard because you can't just be spending all your time making pages for every player who's ever won a little bit of money. So they came up with a system that they called notability points, or being referred to as Liquipedia points, where you had to get a certain amount before you could actually get a page. That way, the people who actually work the site could say, actually, this random diamond who did win one tournament, I don't have to make your page because you don't have enough notability points, without having to feel like, a meanie who's being like, no, you are a nobody. I'm not going to make your page. So they came up with basically an algorithm to decide whether or not you were worthy of making it through, but they could always just cheat it if they wanted to. That was really just their protection to keep, from too many people asking for a page. Now, I have a page myself. I couldn't tell you when it got made. I don't know when I hit the notability points amounts. Maybe it was after Turf Wars. Maybe it was during Turf Wars. Maybe it was before. Maybe it's because I ran some of their tournaments. I'm not really sure when it got made, but I don't think it's a big deal that it did get made because it was never really relevant to me in my career. But to be fair, I was mostly streaming my own stuff. Now, I talked to a commentator who is established in the Rocket League scene to make sure that I wasn't completely out of touch. I said, hey, are you using your Liquipedia page as like your main form of how to get gigs? Are you reaching out to people and being like, look at all the stuff that I've done. I'm clearly an elite caster because of my Liquipedia page. And he said, not really. You mostly just use reels and, like resumes of your own. And Liquipedia is just a nice little reference if you want to point to people. So it's not like it's the be all end all of these commentators getting gigs. Now, I talked a little bit about players, but it's the same thing for commentators as well. Once you get a certain amount of notability points, they'll make you a page. Now, apparently orgs were offering up the fact that their team was good enough that they would finish high enough in a tournament that everybody involved with that team would get points. The players are going to end up getting points, the coach, and maybe the broadcasters are all going to get points because they're the 8th best team in a region or something. And so what I want to say about that is the orgs were just saying they weren't going to pay you. Like, I don't understand. It's too bad that some people feel they need a Liquipedia page that bad that they're willing to consider it any sort of payment. But hopefully what these people start to realize is those orgs were just saying they weren't going to pay you. They weren't saying we're paying you in Liquipedia points. They can't even offer the Liquipedia points. All they're saying is you're likely to get them if you stream with us or if you commentate our team. That is just asking you to work for free, which, like I said before, you can do if you want to. I worked a lot of stuff for free. I think the reality is a lot of people in the commentating space will have to work for free, but it should be known that it is completely for free. Now, apparently, because enough people wanted to get Liquipedia pages. And I can't say too much. Clearly, I'm talking like a Liquipedia page doesn't matter. For one thing, I have one, so maybe that's why I think it doesn't matter. But two, I also did want that sort of validation in what I was doing. If you guys know about the Twitch checkmark for becoming a partner, there's never been a time that I felt more like, wow, I'm established in the scene and what I've done is something I can be proud of. And the way to show it is this ultimately meaningless checkmark that Twitch gave me. So I get that to a certain degree, but I'd hope that I was never convinced that I was actually getting paid money if someone said, hey, instead of getting the viewership, instead of getting the, actual accolades, we just gave you the badge. I would understand that would be cheapened. And I think it's the same thing with Liquipedia pages. I think what people really want is they just want to be established in the first place and not get the points. I mean, the points directly don't matter, or at least I'd hope, again, that they don't matter, which is all to say that shouldn't have been an issue in the first place. That being said, the most recent news, Liquipedia has decided we're not making caster pages anymore. We created the system because we just wanted an easy way to decide whether or not people are notable and not have to make a million pages. That's the way I read it. But they're saying if you're going to use it as payment, clearly we don't want that to happen. So guess what? We'll just not make caster pages. We'll just not make them at all, or at least change the rules. I think they'll still make them if a big caster gets a really big job. But they're saying they're just not making them at all, which is another way to deter people from caring about it too much and asking the nice volunteers at Liquipedia to make them a page. So anyways, that is the drama that's going on in the Rocket League casting space. I just wanted to cover it real quick. I feel like not everybody understood it, and I feel like I have a somewhat unique position on what's going on here. So those are my words about it. I might try and do more videos like this in the future. If you guys enjoyed this one, maybe I'll do them regularly. I don't know. I'm going to stop yapping. It's over.